For students, I think that this framework is meaningful because it helps them to not think of their courses in bins or silos.
The competencies now show up in when I introduce assignments to students.
Before I reviewed the wheel, before I got into the whole cohort, I never really thought about this, teamwork. This is a core part of my class.
When I began as a career readiness fellow, I started to think about the assignments I already had in my Shakespeare class and which of those applied to the career readiness skills.
I've been thinking a lot about social justice and how I can use this class to help students figure out, as medical writers or science writers, how they can be advocates for users or patients or citizens.
In particular, for students that were outside of our major, for whom language neuroscience might just be a passing interest, or maybe it just happened to fit in their schedule. This focus on written communication as an explicit competency that we're working on over the course of the semester gave students a sense of purpose for learning something that maybe otherwise they're not going to touch again in their college careers.
I'm obviously talking about how they fit into the sort of immediate course and the subject matter that we're learning in the course, the things we're doing, but also how it fits into their sort of larger trajectory, their larger career. It shows up in my overviews, it shows up in my rubrics, it shows up in the activities that we do.
Every week we're doing projects together. We're sitting together and we're learning how to speak the language together. You have to work with someone else in the class to be able to, sound out the stuff, to be able to ask each other questions. And I realized that as time went by, that I have learned a lot about these competencies as a teacher in the classroom.
And there was one obvious one, which was a performance assignment. So I had done that for many years in my Shakespeare class, and it always had kind of issues in terms of group work and figuring out, how to get students to work in groups. And the obvious connection with career readiness is that it involves teamwork and leadership. So as soon as I plugged that into the career readiness skill, it was a transformation of the assignment. My dream outcome of this assignment is that some student will be at a job interview and they'll be asked, what experience do you have with teamwork? And the interviewer will expect the usual answer, like, I did this sort of teamwork in a business class, but instead the student will say, well, I was asked to present a scene from Shakespeare. I was on a team with students from college freshmen to graduating seniors of all different majors, and we had to present this project in front of the class to a diverse group of students.
So this final project, I'm asking students to think very carefully about what kinds of audience they're engaging, how they address those audiences. And so I wanted to use the Career Readiness Fellows program to think really meaningfully about the engaging diversity competency, because it seems to align with this social justice orientation that I'm trying to take with the course. But it became clear to me really quickly that as a writing class, that I couldn't disentangle the engaging diversity competency from the oral and written communication. So then my project really became, how can I help the students see the intersection of these two? So work on becoming effective writers as they're engaging diversity and seeing those two as in tandem and very connected. In order to be an effective writer, you have to be able to engage diversity.
I had, students who expressed that the skills that they were learning, for example, during our infographic assignment, might be something that they'd like to build on, something that they'd put on a resume. It was just a really cool opportunity to see students thinking about how the things we're doing in class apply beyond language neuroscience, beyond the speech language hearing sciences department, and really thinking about, my other major and what I'm going to go do with that and how I might use these skills in other venues.